Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Road End podcast. Each episode, we will speak to a new guest, get to know them, and hear their stories about Liverpool Football Club.
Hi everyone, welcome to Season 2 of the Road End podcast. Today I'm joined by Alex, AGT from the Kop TV. We'll be discussing the 2022 to 2023 season and also the main points from it and what we expect from next season. Okay, Alex, AGT, thanks for joining, mate. How are you?
I'm all right, Don, man. Listen, it's good to finally get on the pod. I've been watching from afar, so obviously we've got a couple of mutuals. I have to shout them out, don't I? Shout out Josh and Jack Flood each and every time. Shout out Zangilzag. So yeah, listen, it's always good to see a Scouser doing their thing. So yeah, I'm glad to be on, mate.
Yeah, it's good to have you, mate. Good to have you. So for audience purposes, for my listeners, let's talk about the Kop TV, which is something that you do. Is this something you founded?
Yeah. I founded it towards the end of 2019. I got the opportunity to start a channel, and believe it or not, but all my family are from Liverpool, and my mum used to work on the Kop in the 70s. So she would sell hot dogs and programs in the actual Kop. And it was her idea to call it that. I was like, what should I call this new channel? Do you know what I was going to call it? I've never even told anyone this before. And it's shit. And I'm so glad I didn't. I had two options before she came up with the Kop TV. It was Red or Dead TV.
Oh, no.
Which is shit. And then it was maybe Red Wall TV or something like that. And then my mum came in and went, what about Kop TV, lads? And I went, oh my God, man, I think you found the one. And I looked it up, no one had it. So yeah, the Kop TV was born through that, really. And yeah, we've been going now for a good few years. I actually think this is only our second full season without COVID. So I say really it's our second going into our third season next season. But yeah, mate, it's changed my life. It's my little baby. I live in Liverpool, as you know. So it's the dream job, mate, if I'm honest with you. Yeah, I love it.
Red or Dead, weren't that something Sturridge was saying?
Do you know what? It probably came from a Sturridge hashtag that he made in 2013 or something like that. He did used to say that, yeah. But yeah, just, when you think back and you think, oof, I don't even know how that would have worked. So thank the lucky stars that my mum came in the room and put an end to that.
Oh, okay. So what type of content do you guys produce?
So we do, we go to every home game. We do the fan cams from outside the Park pub, outside the Kop. Obviously, it has to be outside the Kop if it's called the Kop TV. And we also do studio-based podcasts, which would be good to get you on one day soon. We do match previews, reviews. We do player interviews. Recently, it's been quite nice to kind of build a relationship with the club. And through that, we've been able to interview Ian Rush at the top of Anfield, abseiling down. I played on the pitch at Anfield a couple of weeks ago. So there's no content is really off the table. It's just whatever, what it's like. You have to be very reactionary to news that break. So we do a lot of live streams like this or in-person stuff outside the ground. Back in London, I use the studio as well there. So we try and do our best to cover everything, but essentially it is pretty much a two-man band in terms of myself, a guy that does the thumbnails, but then obviously we bring Mario Doyle, we've had Ruby and James Redmond on for a long period as well. So yeah, try and do a bit of everything, mate, really.
Yeah, Mario's a top guy. He always seems to get himself on the camera in the ground. In Paris, I turned around and it was Mario, and I thought, well, I'm definitely getting on the telly here.
Yeah. Do you know what it is? Especially at Anfield, where the cameras are set up, he's, as you know, so passionate and he goes mad when we score. But the cameras actually now know to look for him because they know that he'll give them a great one of them or. So, he somehow magically finds his way onto inside Anfield every week, live TV. So, yeah, I love Liverpool. You love Liverpool, but he is next level. It's
Yes.
actually a bit annoying sometimes how much he loves it.
Okay, so let's get into it then. And by the way, before we go anywhere, you mentioned you played at Anfield. Don't downplay yourself, mate. You got man of the match, I believe.
I did, yeah, I did. I was captain as well.
Bloody hell.
I think I can safely dine out on that one until the day I die. I've already had people saying, "Oh, AGT played at Anfield last week. Did anyone know?" And it's like, well, that's not a normal sentence, though, is it? Like,
No.
that's not something you just wake up and do on I think it was a Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. It's not something that just happens. So, yeah, played on the pitch. Emil Heskey and Fowler were our managers. And to be fair, I scored. We lost 3-1. I scored, played quite well. And then at the end, I got the man of the match award, which is somewhere over here. Unbelievable, mate. Do you know what? They say, because, I've played semi-pro. I'm a decent player myself. My dad was a footballer. When you play on a pitch like that, where it's zippy, it's like a carpet, you'd think, oh, this will improve my game. But for some people, it did the opposite because it shows you up if you're shit, really.
Yeah.
Because if that ball's pinging over to you and you try and touch it and it zings off, like you're just going to look like a fool. So I couldn't believe how zippy the pitch was. I couldn't believe how big it was, mate. Like getting up and down that it was 2 halves of 30 minutes. So getting up and down that, my legs were done for 2 days after. When I scored, I tried to slide on my knees. The guy was like, "Don't slide, lads, don't slide."
I played on
um,
there about 10 years ago, played right
really?
wing, and I
Yeah.
was absolutely goosed. The
Oh,
wing,
mate, it's
mate. I
mad,
don't know
isn't
what
it?
position were you playing?
I was playing kind of CDM, CM role, which is a lot of running, but on the wings as well, mate, up and down. Yeah, you know what it's like. Do you know what? You'll understand. But when you're on the pitch and you're looking out, you can see every face. There
Yeah,
wasn't any faces to see, but you can see every chair. You can see every face. So if someone's giving you dogs abuse, you know exactly where they're sitting. You know exactly what they look like. That's the
definitely.
mad thing. And then you get the ball, you start pinging it around, and you're just like, what is going on? This is just mental. And then I had a
Yeah.
shower after. I had a
In the
shower in
showers as well?
I nicked Virgil's towel. We had food there after. We did the tour. Unbelievable experience. And if you've played, you did it first. You were there 10 years ago, but the stadium, as you know, has changed a bit since then. So it
Yeah.
was nice to go behind the scenes. The away dressing room is horrible, as it should be, by the way, but it is
Yeah.
horrible. There's paint scratched off the wall. You can't even sit comfortably. They funnel the noise from the Kop into the away dressing room before games, and that's how it should be, really. But
Yeah.
unbelievable experience, mate. Yeah,
Good. I made up for you, mate. Good.
thanks, man.
Uh, so this season, let's dive into it. Basically, let's
Yeah,
get in there. It hasn't gone to plan by any means, but towards the end, if anyone can put a run together, it's Liverpool and Man City. So it's sort of we knew it could happen. It was just a case of if it did and when it did. What's your honest assessment on this season?
disappointing has to be the main word that you use, considering back in August everyone thought that we'd at least, every single pundit or person on TV or in football said, yeah, Liverpool and City again, can't see anything different. And we all went with that. And I think maybe within week 5, we knew
Yeah.
actually we're not going to be anywhere near this league. So you kind of had to, what's the word I'm looking for? You had to adapt what your expectations were very soon on. Because I remember being in New York in September, and at that point, a month into the season, we're writing off, Premier League, maybe even top 4. So to finish where we finished, it's probably par for the course if you look at some of the incredible games that we've had this season, which makes it so weird. It makes it even weirder. We've beaten
Yeah.
United 7-0, which you don't get a trophy for, apparently.
I
Didn't
heard this
know that.
before.
Um, we've won away at Rangers. We've had some big wins in the Champions League, but what does it count for at the end of the season? Absolutely nothing. Well, I say that sounds ungrateful because there are teams 10th to 20th that would love to play in the Europa League, but just because of the standards that we've set, a 5th finish seems as if it's a massive disappointment, which it is. Let's actually raise our standards here. We've been in 3 Champions League finals in the last 5. We need to be in that competition. So we're not anywhere near the title race. We went out the cups, which was disappointing. The only glimmer of hope really is the fact that, going into the end of the season, we've obviously got the last game on Sunday. There is still a very, very, very minute chance that we do get Champions League, but we're all admitting now that we won't. But I think the small glimmer of hope really has been kind of the upturn in form towards the last 10 games. We know that we could do that. And that has been with Trent in midfield. The question is, why couldn't we have done that maybe before the World Cup? It's the $1 million question, or the £50 million question, maybe. So disappointing, mate, really. When you look at the players that we've got, not much has changed from the team that almost got the quadruple last season. The upturn in form for Curtis has been great. I'm just trying to take as many positives as I can. Trent in midfield, positive. Darwin, some positives there. I think 16 goals in his debut season. Mo doing what he does again. Alisson being the best and confirming that he is, or reconfirming to all the other fans, not us, that he's the best in the world. So there's Bajcetic as well coming through. So if you actually want to, hand pick some moments, there's a good 5 to 10 there. But unfortunately, there's about 20 bad moments as well. We've drawn 9 and lost 9, which is half of the season, mate. That's half of the season we've dropped points, which is not good enough. And we can sit here and make excuses, but the refereeing hasn't been great. We've been cost at the Villa at the weekend, but when it comes down to it, the table doesn't lie, and we haven't been good enough. So the only positive look into next season is, well, can we have a really, really, really productive window? And that's getting rid of players and bringing them in. Can we build on what we've kind of, this mini rebuild that we've done in the last 10 games? Can we carry that on? Can we bring some big names in? And then we'll just have to see where we are next season. I couldn't even predict what will happen next season, because last season, this time last year, mate, we were days away from doing the quadruple, right? Today, there's nothing to play for. So somewhere in the middle, I guess, of that next season, maybe.
Yeah. So Europa League, obviously that looks like it's on, given a disaster from Manchester United. Is it as bad as people are making out?
Definitely not. It is if you look at what Liverpool have achieved in the last 5 years, of course. But let's go before that 5 years. We would have been fairly happy to get a Europa League spot. I know Jurgen Klopp, we got one of those when he first came in. We got to the final. It's the only competition he's not won. So it does. The thing is, you and I would both rather the Champions League. But if we are in the Europa League, let's look at the positives. We get a nice, cheap flight out to Ludogorets. We can go to Toulouse. We can go to Betis, PSV, AC Milan. There's still some big teams in it. Also, let's not forget all the Man United fans that are singing, you're in Europa, you finished 5th. They might be They could well
see them
soon. In the Europa
League.
Them soon. Even Newcastle, if they finish 3rd in their group, we could be playing them. Brighton are in the Europa League. So although it's the 2nd-tier European competition, we have been 2nd-tier this season. So it's almost, we get what we deserve. So I'm really looking forward to it, if I'm honest, mate. I quite like Thursday nights. I quite like Sundays watching
breaks
football.
The week up, doesn't it? Thursdays.
Yeah, it breaks it up. It breaks up the latter half of the week, not the start of it. But I'm looking forward to it, mate. As I said, there's some really interesting teams in here, and it's nice to try and nick a couple of away days at these places next year. So the finals in Dublin, that would be a home game for us, essentially. I just don't want to get Sevilla. I know if they win it, they're going to be in the Europa League. Sorry, they're going to be in the Champions League, but they'll probably want to finish 3rd just so they can get back in here and win this. So let's go and win it, mate, because that's another way of getting Champions League football. It's another trophy added. It's more memories along the way, and we get what we're given. We're not complaining about it. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, given the situation of maybe 3 months back, 4 months back, you'd have snapped the hands off for Europa League, because the position we were in, the form we were in, we don't even deserve to be anywhere near 3 points behind United. So have we had as bad a season as people are making out?
Yeah, if you ask Flex, if you ask Robbie, if you ask Matisse, have Liverpool had a bad season? We have.
Yeah.
And you and I can admit that as well. But this is all because it's bad because of where we've been for the last 5 years. And all these teams that I just mentioned have been nowhere near that in the last 5 years. So for us to actually end up with a chance to get top 4 last game, I mean, listen, if we'd have beat Villa, if we'd have turned one of those Chelsea draws into a win, we'd be finishing above potentially Man U's best season in years. So that just shows you where the levels are and where they have been for the last 10 years, really, since United won a league. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a bad season, but for us to even be in and amongst the top 4 places, I wouldn't say it's a positive. It's more frustrating, actually, because it's like, well, why couldn't we have just done this a little bit earlier? Why could we not have played a different formation against Brighton away, Wolves away, Brentford away? We got battered.
I know.
At these places, so it's frustrating. I'd say frustrating is the word more than anything, because it's too little too late, but there is something, but it's just come too little too late. So frustrating is the word for me.
Okay, and obviously we had social media doing what it does best, coming out with some absolute nonsense throughout the season. Klopp out seemed to do a little circle, probably from people who've never honestly watched Liverpool before or never put in the miles like we have. What was your thoughts when this was going on? Because for me, it's a season where it's a season of frustration, disappointment, and he'll feel it more than anyone. So, we back the manager. He's the only one that's produced so much for us so soon. So,
well, his contract's, he's got 3 years left in his contract, so I don't see him. And this is the question that they ask me every week on DR. It's like, you can sit around and say that he's not good enough, he's got to go. But that's the difference between you and I. Liverpool fans don't do that. I said, we're not making T-shirts saying Klopp out like you guys are. We're not hounding managers out of the club like United, Chelsea have done in the past. So at the end of the day, Klopp's staying, and I heard all this rubbish this season about the 7th season curse and all this. My answer to that was, no one's seen him in an 8th season though, have they? So let's see what he does in the 8th season, because he ain't going nowhere. And it was almost as if other teams wanted him to get sacked because they knew how good he was first, and they knew secretly deep down, even though they didn't want to admit it, that he is the man to turn this around and rebuild it. So we'll see what happens next year, because I'm pretty sure that this summer is the most important summer Klopp's had at Liverpool in terms of recruitment, strategy, planning ahead for the next 3 years, because who knows, we could win another title in the next 3 years. And then all that 7-season curse, where's that chat now? So he is the man. He will be the man. He always will be the man. And it's as simple as that. Liverpool fans have got all the patience in the world with him. If every other team wants to ask the question, go ahead. But we've got the same answer. Listen, there have been times this season where maybe for the first time ever, I've questioned the in-game management, subs, leaving them too late, not using the right players. And listen, he's not. He is to us. He isn't God. Someone's going to have to ask him some questions down the line at some point when things aren't going right. And that's how you do business. You don't just sack someone because they lost 4 games. That's just not how we do it anyway. Other teams do that. We don't. So he is the man to take us forward. And, if you don't like that, then you're clearly not a Liverpool fan in my eyes.
Good man. Okay, I seen Adidas gifted you one of 2 pairs of Bobby Firmino's boots, what he played in the last game of the season.
Yeah.
I've just seen a rumour now to say Barcelona are in pole position, but they want Aubameyang ahead of Firmino. What?
All right, take it. That means that we could have him for another year. Like, the one thing I've been critical of Liverpool, as I've mentioned all that other stuff, the board level decisions not to invest, the in-game management, that's all, old news now, really, because hopefully all those things change this season. But the decision to allow Bobby to leave for free doesn't sit right with me, because as we saw at the weekend, he still scores goals. He's still such a vital player when he's on the pitch. To me, it's like, well, if there's no, we're here in Barca a pole position, that's great. But if there is no one desperate to sign him, because we would have heard a lot more rumours than this so far, then why couldn't we have held on for him? If I was the decision maker, I would have given him a 12 to 18 month contract. I know he's 30, but we've got to get over this thing of, we can't give contracts to anyone over 30, because then what? Are we not going to give Virgil, Alisson? Are we not going to give Salah one when his comes near the end? So Firmino, for me, had to stay. And I'm really upset that he's leaving. He's literally one of my favourite Klopp players ever and Liverpool players ever. And to get his boots, as you mentioned at the weekend, is ridiculous. Again, certain things happen to you when you're like yourself, bro. When you're working hard, you're being consistent, you find yourself gifted things or given opportunities to things that you'd never thought would happen. So to get them boots is is literally a joke. They're like rocking horse shit. You can't even. People in the comments like, "How much did you pay?" Like, I wouldn't have even been able to afford these because
No.
they are priceless. So, and when he scored again, it was like, well, do we really want this fella to leave now? And I know he's number 9. There's going to be shouts to get who gets the number 9 next season, but I don't know what you think, mate. But I think we should have kept him for another year.
Like people say, oh, he's lost his pace, blah, blah, blah. He has never had pace where he just breaks through the lines. It's never been his game. What he does is provide someone dropping in and giving the wingers like Diaz, the Mane's in the past, the Salah, the space in behind to, get in there and score the goals. He's the most selfless player I've ever seen. He's regenerated that position, if not created that position what he's in
Yeah,
now. 12 months would have done no harm to have him there.
no harm, And you know what? Before the World Cup, I think he'd scored 8 in 14
Yeah,
in the
it
Prem.
was shit hot.
So again, we're hearing that Klopp wanted to keep Millie. We heard the board wanted to let him go. So there seems to be a slight fraction in between the decision making between Klopp and FSG when it comes to these older players. I mean, Milner is 37 to be fair, but Firmino for me is one that you keep for another year. I think maybe even make it a 2-year deal. I mean,
Yeah.
what's the harm? Get him to 10 years, give him the testimonial. I don't think now is necessarily the right or best time to say goodbye to him. And whoever does get him, we've got a great player there. The fact that we've allowed the Ox Cater to leave for free as well shows me that there must be money there. If we're comfortable throwing away, I know Bobby's definitely earned his crust back, but if we're happy to throw away 60 odd mil on Cater and 40 odd mil on Ox and just let them walk out the door for free, that's either we've got loads of dough and we don't care, or it's stupid / ignorant to what's going on. I mean, Ox is only 28 still, so
It's crazy. He feels like he's been around forever, doesn't he?
I know. Well, he has really. He's probably
Mm.
been around for 10 years now, but yeah, it just to me seems like we're letting too many. I don't think United have made any money selling any players in the last 10 years. They kind of walk down their contract and walk out the door. I don't want this to become a pattern for us. I think we're better
No.
than that. You've got again, sporting director coming in. We're hearing you've got to. I don't know what it is. Get a big whiteboard up, a big red cross through the date that someone's leaving, and say, right, he's leaving or his contract runs out in 12 months. What's the plan? What's the strategy? Can we maximize the profit? Do we sign him on again? I just feel like the decision making since maybe the Edwardses, the Wards have gone as has definitely led to some on pitch poor performances as well. So we've got to do something about that going forward because we can't just let top assets leave for free
No.
every summer. That's not
No,
how we do stuff.
it's a lot of experience in that as well. They're not just 4 players who've been there for a year or so. Keita, not as much influence on the pitch as we'd have liked, but the influence of Milner, Bobby, Ox, as much as he mightn't have played as many as we like as well, there's so much there that we're going to lose in that dressing room that you just can't buy.
100%. I mean, again, would Milner have been better off in a kind of coach-player role for next season? These are all questions that there's no point in asking now because they're all going. But
Yeah.
I agree with you, mate. It's like the strategy has to be there going forward. We don't want to be this club that lets this kind of situation happen over and over again. And as you say, to replace all that know-how, experience, winning mentality, you say how much does that cost? A lot, because you can't buy that.
Yeah.
And this is again, it goes back to what I just said. This is why this summer is the most important summer, I think, in Klopp's tenure, because how can you replace all of that? So we need to make sure every single day, and it's June 14th, but every single day spent in that window, we have to be productive, proactive, thinking ahead to future-proof ourselves for the next 2 to 3 years, really.
Okay, and the last thing we'll talk about before we move on to maybe just a couple of quick fire type of questions at the end. 2 to 3 windows, if not years, we've talked about Jude Bellingham. He's the closest thing to Gerrard that I've seen,
Yeah.
and that's a massive statement, but it's what I believe.
Well, I actually think he's better at 19 than Gerrard was at 19.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that, myth, because he's carrying a top European club at 19 years of age, and
He's
that's
about to win the league.
it's unheard of. What are your feelings on this situation? For me, I'm fed up with just believing something's going to happen and it doesn't, because we know that FSG or whoever's brought this out has said it's this figure. We've knew it was going to be this figure for so long. So why is it now we've went, oh shit, we can't pay that?
Where's the strategy there? Where's the big club mentality there? You know, it's like we've pulled us. It's not even like they've told us we're not in the race. We've basically pulled out of the race before it even began. I mean, it's gone a little bit quiet now with the Bellingham stuff. It's rumored that he's going to end up at Madrid, which, you know, can you blame someone? Will you actually be asked that? Because we've said, well, come to Liverpool and then stay for 4 years and then go to Madrid. But there's no guarantee they ask you twice in your career.
No.
And if it was you or I, you know, it happened with Steve McManaman, Scouse lad, got asked the question, can you really say no to Real Madrid? So I'm not too mad at him going there. It's more, we know it was so obvious that we were in for him. We were teased so much by our own players, mate. If I'm honest, Hendo's got to get done for child grooming at some point there if he doesn't end up coming, because the way he was hanging around Jude, unbelievable. So it's our fault, mate. It's not Jude's fault. It's not Real Madrid's fault. It's our fault because. Again, without a sporting director to really make sure these deals are seamless and not really spoken about, that's the key thing. It was also in the open, which is never a good thing, because how do we do the Van Dijk deal? How do we do the Alisson, the Fabinho? It was all done just quickly. The Jota, Thiago, all these deals were just signed. They're holding up the shirt. There's none of this back and forth. Whereas I feel Liverpool fans got involved in this 18 months of back and forth, and it was also public. It's a bit messy when that happens. That's not how big clubs really run. And you know, there's still a chance that he stays at Dortmund. I think if you win the league there, obviously there is steps up after Dortmund with respect. But if you win the league there, who's to say he might want to say, well, actually, I've just won the league. We're in the Champions League. I'm staying for another year, which I wouldn't blame him for, by the way.
No.
I think there's probably a 2 to 4% chance that Liverpool can still buy him. And I'm not saying that's this summer, could be next summer. But, you know, we went from 80, or in our minds anyway, we were 85% likely that this would happen. And now it's pretty much disappeared. So unfortunately, I can only blame ourselves for that, mate.
Last couple of questions. It's based on our season and for next. Player of the season for Liverpool.
Alisson, which isn't a good thing, by the way, if your goalkeeper's player of the season. But sometimes you look at his saves, and I think he's clear in terms of keepers that have saved definite goals against us this season, which again isn't a good thing, because that shows you that the defense is leaky. But forget the bad season, forget all the other positions that should be winning player of the year. When you isolate how good he is as a goalkeeper, how good he is with his feet, he can assist, he can score. He can get us in the Champions League lastminute.com. He is, without question, the best. And again, you know, you and I weren't around for necessarily the Grobbelars or the guys before that who were incredible, who led the way. But he is easily the best goalkeeper I've ever seen. Easily. So I'll give it to him. Notable mentions, I guess you've got to throw Salah in there for getting 30-odd goals in all comps. You've got to throw Curtis Jones maybe late on, Bajcetic, but yeah, it's clear, and by far it's Alisson.
Yeah. Okay. So best moment of the season for you?
Oh, great question. This is why I come back to the word frustration, mate.
Yeah.
Because why can I remember a good 3 to 5 really incredible highs, but what has it meant in the end? Obviously the 7-0. Obviously was it 6 or 7-1 away at Rangers? Was it 7?
7-1.
I think it was 7. That's up there. City at home. The best, actually, I'll give you the best moment. And again, in the end, it wasn't a great moment. But that 20 minutes that I had at Anfield when we were 2-0 up against Madrid, for me, that was the best 20 minutes I've had at Anfield. It was bouncing in there, mate. It was a joke. But then Madrid do what Madrid do. We helped them, obviously, by messing it up, passing it back to Alisson, which I don't blame Alisson for that. It was more of a Joe Gomez issue. So I will go with the first 20 minutes of that Real Madrid game.
We've spoken about the biggest disappointment, which was most of the season, so we'll forget that.
Yeah.
What do we need for the new season?
I reckon there's about 7 to 9 players leaving. Got to bring, 3 to 5 in? So a lot needs to be done. Do we get a new right back? Do we play Trent in midfield? These are all the key decisions that have to be made really early on in the window to allow us the most time to either replace or improve. You've got to buy 2 to 3 midfielders. Question is, do you buy a Bobby replacement? Or maybe not, considering we've got 5 strikers, really. Do you need more than that? Do you get a couple of more number 2s? You know, I heard very recently that Kelleher might stay now, which is great. But for me, if I'm a 25-year-old keeper and I've only played 20-odd league games or just 20-odd games at 24, you got to question your own ambition.
Yeah.
I'd love him to stay. I do think he's the best number 2 in the world, but Kelleher, will he leave? So you got to buy goalkeepers. You got to buy another centre back, because Nat Phillips will probably leave. You've got to have a little bit more depth in that position, because it seems like if Matip or Van Dijk get injured, the defence just falls apart. So there's a lot of this. It all goes down to what I've just said again, that how important is this summer, mate? So we're looking at 5 to 7 positions there to fill. So this sporting director has got a lot of work to do very soon as well. Got to get stuck in.
And FSG have got to dig deep.
FSG have to dig deep. There's no other option now. You know, when we won the Champions League, we didn't buy anyone really. I know we bought Fabinho the season we lost in Madrid, which was a very impressive reactive purchase. But FSG have got to put 150 to 250 million down this summer, and that's not because they should, it's because they have to. If they, and again, this is the key question: does their ambition match the fans' ambition? You see how Man City get backed illegally, cheaters. But we need. I'm not necessarily saying go out and splash 600 million like Chelsea do, because we've seen that's not the way how you do it. We know that's not the way, so none of us want that. But you've got to go and put a 200 down and really show some fight and let the rest of the league and the Champions League know we're not, small fishes here. We need to act like big fish in the window. We've been a big fish dealing with student loan resources really for the last 2 years, which just doesn't match up.
No.
And I think there's going to be absolute riots if they don't do something massive this summer. I mean, we all love the new stand. We love the new training ground. These are all things that needed to happen, and big ticks to FSG for doing that, but they will not get away with another summer of underinvestment, and this has to be, and again, so important this summer that they invest.
Right, let's call it a pod there, mate. Appreciate your time coming on, Alex. Really
No
good,
worries,
really
bro.
good to have you on, mate. It's good to finally catch up with you as well. So let's hope big summer ahead and big things for next year, because I don't know about you, but I'm having withdrawals in terms of finals.
Yeah, honestly, mate, like I worked at Box Park Wembley when we won the FA Cup last year. 5,000 Reds all going mad. We had the Champions League final to look forward to. It's only until that doesn't happen the next year you go, oh, what a year that was.
Yeah.
And I don't know when the next time is that we're going to be in a final, mate. So get the season review out for last year if you want, because you don't want to watch this one.
Right, I'll speak to you soon, mate. Okay, thanks very much.
Tom. Big up, brother. Take care.
Thanks to everyone for listening in to today's podcast, and thank you to our amazing guests. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. Don't forget to follow us on social media, twitter.com/The Road End Pod, and on Instagram, Instagram/The Road End Pod.